how do you feel about those particular algorithms? Are
Yeah,
you able to?
yeah, I tried some, but I still have to work on it a little better.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll try this weekend.
okay, let's start. So, what is meant by an operating system? So, whenever you switch on your computer, what is the first thing that you see? So, the first program that gets loaded into your computer is operating system. So, what are
Hello?
yeah?
Okay.
So, yeah. So, what exactly is an operating system? So, operating system is nothing but it's a platform between this hardware. Let me put it this way. So, what exactly is an operating system? So, operating system is a platform between the user of a particular system and uh, the computer. So, when I say computer, before installing any software onto the computer, so whatever we have is hardware. So we'll be having only the hardware part. So this hardware is nothing but whatever the equipment that you can see, that you can touch, that you can feel. So whatever you can touch is hardware. So when I say computer or any computing device, so each and every computing device should have a processing unit, and it should have an input device, it should have an output device. So not only this input output, we should have memory. So let me just tell you briefly about, what are different components of a computer. So the first and foremost thing on any computer, so just look at your computer or look at your laptops, so and tell me what are different components that you are able to see.
Keyboard
Okay,
and screen.
okay,
Mm, I think that's it.
yep. One more addition here: mouse,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
printer. So these are different devices which you have connected to your operating system.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I'm speaking, you are able to listen to me. So that means you have some audio devices.
Yes.
So I can write as speakers or audio devices. So these are all what we can see externally. But
Mm-hmm.
internally, it will have something called motherboard or it's also called as printed circuit board. So whenever you open your cabinet, all the devices or all the cables from each and every device will be connected onto a board, and this board is called motherboard,
Mm-hmm.
and so on. So these are different kinds of devices. So how can we categorize these devices, and what are various categories that are available? So what is that you are doing with your mouse? What are the things that you are doing with your mouse? So whenever you want to write something into the computer, you use keyboard. Or whenever you want to open some particular application, so you just double click on the icon of that particular application using your mouse. So you are trying to so whenever you are trying to get some work out of your computer, you have to give some inputs to it, like writing some text, or maybe clicking on particular icon, or maybe anything that you do on your computer you can do basic using keyboard or mouse. So these keyboards and mouse are the devices which help you in giving some input to your computer are called input devices. And whatever I type at my or in my computer, you are able to see it there because you have a display. And suppose if you have if uh, whatever the class notes that I am sharing with you, if you click on particular print button on that application, then what happens? You will get a printout of it, or you will get a hard copy of it. So how you are getting hard copy? Because you have printer. So from the computer you are able to get something out of it, like printing a copy, or you are able to see whatever I am doing here, which means I'm inputting something at my end and you are able to output it at your end. So all these devices which help you in displaying output, or which help you in uh, showing output to the end users, are called output devices. So what are different output devices that we have? We have monitors and printers. These are mainly two different kinds of output devices. And the next thing, yeah, speakers can also be called as output devices, because I am playing some music in my computer and it the music comes out through speakers. So they are also called as output devices. So between this input and output, there should be something which processes our instructions. So what is that something? That something is called processing unit. So I can say computer as a device which processes the input and gives me the output. So that is one more definition of a computer. So when I say processing unit, what exactly it do? So processing unit is responsible for processing any instruction on your computer. So what is instruction? Instruction is nothing but whatever you do on a computer, it has to be, or there has to be an instruction related to that particular action. For example, in order to write something onto this notepad, or in order to open this notepad, or in order to log into, in order to open a browser, each and every task in a computer will have some instructions. So whenever you are opening particular application, it means you are instructing the computer to open a particular application. So I click on a particular icon using my mouse. So it means I'm inputting some instruction to the computer, and this instruction has to be processed by the central processing unit. And the central processing unit will process that instruction and gives me the output. So the main or the major or the important device within a computer is the processor. So you might have heard the company names like Intel, AMD. So what do? They manufacture or the device or they design the processors. So they are processors. They are the companies that design processors. So we have different kinds of processors. So you might have heard terms like core to duo or dual core.
Mm-hmm.
So what exactly is meant by core to duo, dual core or quad core? So when I say core to duo, it means the processor will have two cores. So uh, generally a processor can process only one instruction at a time. But if you look at my computer, simultaneously I have opened this particular folder. I have opened two notepads, and I have opened uh, another application like web browser. So I have opened different kinds of applications, but the processor can instruct. I am saying, but the processor can in, process only one instruction at a time. So in order to get or in order to make a computer do multiple tasks at a time, you may have more than one processor. So Core2Duo is nothing but you have two processors. It is equivalent to having two separate processors. So when I say quad core, again it is equivalent to having four processors. Right. So the performance of the computer is increased by increasing the cores of the processor. So that is about CPU. And another important component of a computer is memory. So whatever the program that you write or whatever the application that you I did not get your question, Lata. Where do you use four processors? I mean, is your question is where do we use four processors? Okay. Generally, we have. I mean, no application uses simultaneously all the four processors. Or there are some high-end graphic applications like high-end games or maybe multimedia based applications that need more processing power, but it doesn't mean that it uses all the four processors at a single point of time. So maybe the particular application might use one processor, and maybe simultaneously we should have some other applications running along with them. So they use the remaining processors. So which means at a single point of time you are able to work with four processors at a time. So so the answer to your question is I mean the exact answer to your question is uh, we don't know, because uh, operating system internally has a lot of mechanisms. it has a lot of algorithms. It works based on lot of algorithms. So we cannot say that a particular application will use only two processors because it all depends on the internal algorithm used by the application. So actually how exactly this processing happens is if there is an instruction or if there are set of instructions given to the computer, then the computer will divide instructions or the processes into chunks or pieces. So and these pieces gets executed, or sometimes we have something called threads. So when we have threads, thread is nothing but a sub process. So thread can be considered as a sub process. So when I have two or three threads on a program, then two or three threads of that particular process will get executed simultaneously. But we cannot say which application uses these three threads, this application uses these four threads, because it is internal to the application, or it is the way, or it depends on the way in which the code was written for that particular application, and also the of handling techniques used by the operating system. So it all depends on both of them. So coming back to memory, so memory is nothing but the storage area. So uh, I think almost all of your computers will have some uh, photographs. You might have stored some photographs on your computer. You might have stored some music files onto your computer. You might have stored some movies onto your computer. So how you are able to store them? Because in order to store any data, in order to store any information on a computer, we should have memory, or the computer should have some memory. So coming to memory, there are two kinds of memory used by a computer. So the first kind of memory is called primary memory, and the second kind of memory is called secondary memory. So what is the difference? You might have come across a term RAM, or people generally tend to say it as RAM. So RAM stands for Random Access Memory. So each and every computer will have a primary memory or a RAM. So what is the job of this particular RAM? So whenever an instruction is executed by the CPU, so before the instruction is executed by the CPU, the instruction has to be loaded into this particular RAM. So the CPU can take the instructions from the RAM only. It cannot directly read the memory, or it cannot read the instructions directly from the hard disk. So that is the reason why RAM is called primary memory, or it's also called as main memory. Then coming to secondary memory, we have hard disk, we have USB, or pen drives, or flash drives, or tape drives, or CD, or compact disk. So all these fall into the category of secondary memory, where if you have stored, if you store something onto the secondary memory, it will remain permanently. Whereas coming to primary memory, so whatever you have on in the primary memory will get erased as soon as you switch off the computer. So that's the difference between primary memory and secondary memory. But though the primary memory is volatile, I mean it gets erased as soon as electric supply is stopped, but it is very important in a computer to have primary primary memory because CPU can read instructions only from the primary memory. So the instructions will be fetched from the, so whenever you start a program, the program gets loaded into the primary memory from the secondary memory, and from primary memory CPU takes the instructions and executes those instructions. So that is how it happens. So that is how instructions are executed. So this is about computer. So coming back to our topic, operating system. So operating system is nothing but it's a platform between you and the hardware. So whenever you want to get something out of your computer, your operating system, I mean, you should have operating system. Until and unless you have operating system, you will not be able to work with your computer. Not only computer, even if you take the example of your mobile phone. So if you have an Apple mobile, Apple iPhone, each and every Apple iPhone uses an operating system called iOS. Or maybe if you have some Nexus versions or anything, uh, so you might have heard the term Android. So Android is also another operating system, or it's an operating system for mobile phone, which is like iOS. So, so what is the needs or what are different responsibilities handled by this particular operating system? So operating system takes the responsibility of memory management within a computer, and it also takes care of device management. Then it also takes care of resource management. So what are these uh, different things? So memory management is nothing but managing the memory that you have. So let's say you have a program which needs, or the size of program is say 4 MB, or it needs 4 GB of RAM, or it needs 4 GB of memory to execute the program. So whenever a particular program needs more amount of memory, huge amount of memory, then maybe your RAM cannot handle the particular program, because let's say your RAM capacity is 1 GB and you have many programs running on your computer. So because you are already using many programs on your computer, your 1 GB RAM is completely full, completely occupied with all the programs that are running simultaneously. So when you have all your programs running simultaneously and you are trying to start another new program, so how the computer can handle this particular situation? So the RAM will take away some other process from its memory and it loads the new process into it. So in order to do this particular thing, in order to take something out of memory and dumping some other things into the memory, there are various criteria on which it does, like maybe based on the priority or based on algorithms like first come first serve, or based on algorithms like last in first out. So there are various algorithms that are responsible for this memory management, but it is the operating system which has to take or which takes care of this particular memory management. So the next thing is device management. So when I have asked you what are different devices that are connected to your computer, you said many devices. So the operating system is responsible to manage all these devices. And operating system also takes care of resource management. So by resource management, I mean the different resources like uh, you can say processor as a resource, you can say memory as a resource, you can say suppose you are on a shared network and you have printer connected in that particular network. So this printer is a shared resource and the operating system takes care of this particular resource management. So these are different or these are main important responsibilities of an operating system. So let us come or let us discuss about a specific or a particular operating system, Linux. So what is Linux? So Linux is an operating system from the open source. So what is open source? If you take companies like Microsoft, if you take companies like Apple, so from Microsoft we have Windows XP or Windows Vista or series of Windows operating systems. So similarly, when you take the Apple, you have series of Mac operating systems from Apple. So in order to install those particular operating system onto your computer, the first thing is you have to buy those softwares. And whenever you buy an operating system from either Windows or Apple, you will get a CD of it and you will get the final build of operating system. You will not be given the source code or you will not be given so each and every operating system for each and every operating system the software engineers will have to write the source code. So when you buy any software from companies like Windows or Apple or any company, they will not give you the source code. So these are called proprietary companies. Whereas coming to open source, so whatever software that you have or whatever software that is uh, being released into the market from or based on open source licenses, so it means the software comes with the source code. So take the example of Linux or take something like OpenOffice. OpenOffice is like an office suite which is similar to Microsoft Office suite. And maybe all of you might have heard about the software Photoshop. So Photoshop is a professional photo designing tool or software and it is from Adobe. So whereas similar to Photoshop, we have something in operating open source called GIMP. So what is the difference between open source and the proprietary software? So open source will allow you to have access or open source software will give you access to its source code. So you will have the access to the source code of an open source software and you can modify the code as per your needs. Then after you modify the code, you can redistribute the code. Suppose you can log in or you can download any version of Linux from the internet and do some modifications to it and you can sell it with your own name. But there are different conditions to the license, like you have to give credit uh, to the users who have, I mean, whose software you have modified. So there are different uh, conditions for that particular open source license as well. But when you compare open source and proprietary software, the cost of licensing will be either very cheap compared to proprietary, or sometimes it's free also. So that's the beauty of open source. So you get all the software for free. So when I say free, it's not only free of cost in the cases of some softwares, but it is the freedom to use. So you are free to download, you are free to modify, you are free to distribute. Whereas the proprietary software come with many terms, like if you buy a particular operating system to use on a single computer, you cannot use it or you cannot install it on multiple computers. Suppose whenever a company buys an operating system from Windows or Apple, so they have to tell the number of licenses that they need, which means they have to tell the company, or they have to tell that particular software vendor about the number of people who are going to use that particular software. So based on your requirement, they will give you the number of licenses. So that's the difference between open source and the proprietary software. So coming to Linux, Linux is an open source operating system which was first developed by a person called Linus Torvalds. So Linus Torvalds is the person who has developed this particular Linux operating system. So when he started this particular operating system, he started it as his college project, and it has evolved over a period of time, and now it is very robust operating system. So what made Linux so popular? So Linux has become so popular because of the security that it provides to the users, or because of its openness, and also because of the freedom to use and freedom to distribute. And one more important thing is cost of usage. So these are different factors that have influenced the Linux operating system's usage. So this is about Linux. So in order to work with Linux operating systems, we should have, or we will, or there is an important thing in Linux. So it is nothing but there is an important program within a Linux operating system, and which is called as terminal. So terminal, so what exactly is the terminal? So terminal is like, suppose I hope all of you are using Windows based operating system. So when you use Windows based operating system, just if you type, or if you go to this particular run and type cmd, then it will open a command prompt. So even in Linux you have a similar kind of command prompt, but it is called as terminal. But if you compare command prompt and terminal, the functionality available in terminal is much more sophisticated, and the features or the jobs that you can perform using a terminal are far more uh, sophisticated compared to command prompt. So in order to work with a Linux-based operating system, one should be familiar with Linux commands. So let us discuss some of the Linux commands today. So what is the need of each and every Linux command? So each and every Linux command will help you to do a particular task, will help you to instruct computer to to do a particular task on your computer. For example, in order to create a folder, what do? We just right click on using the mouse. We just right click on right click your mouse and create a new folder. But the same thing can also be done from the terminal. And similarly, if you are creating some file, you can create file using terminal. So in the earlier days of Linux operating system, we don't have this user friendliness. So we have to depend on this particular character based uh, interactivity. So in order to work with a character based interactivity, we should use commands. So let us look into some of the commands and you will understand the commands better.
Bharat, I
So
have a
first,
question.
yeah,
What kind of security it provides, the Linux? You said,
okay, compared to, I mean,
yeah, other operating systems.
okay, the important security features that Linux provides. Uh, First of all, the code that was written for Linux is highly secure. I mean, the code provides highly secure environment. So if you compare any other operating system with Linux, Linux is far more secure
Mm-hmm.
because it provides various authentication mechanisms. Even suppose whenever you installing a particular operating system onto your computer, you can uh, uh, let me take the example of Windows XP. So when you install Windows XP onto your computer, you can just install Windows XP without creating a password for user account.
Mm-hmm.
But you cannot do the same on a Linux operating system. And even not only just the external features like authentication, internally the code is highly secure.
Okay.
So it is not just that we have to give the password to log into the system. It is
Mm-hmm.
with respect to the code.
Okay.
And also, whenever you are trying to access a Linux operating system, uh, it, it will have a lot of authentication mechanisms, like different levels of authentication.
Okay.
So, so in order to use a particular Linux operating system, or in order to install some particular thing onto the Linux operating system, you cannot install it directly until and unless you log in as an administrator.
Mm-hmm.
And that feature is almost available in Windows, but uh, the feature that you have in Linux is far more sophisticated.
Okay.
And also there are things like yeah, network security. So whenever uh, you are onto the network, you are in the public network, there is a chance for hackers to hack into Windows-based operating system easily when you compare it with Mac or Linux,
Mm-hmm.
because Mac is also based on I mean there is important thing called kernel. So kernel is like it's the core of an operating system. So the kernel of Mac is also based on Linux, but
Okay.
whatever they have externally or the user interaction layer of Linux was developed. Sorry, the user interaction layer of Mac was developed in such a way to give you a good look and feel.
Okay.
So that is the reason why Mac and Linux are very secure. And
Okay.
another important thing that bothers each and every computer user is the virus.
Mm-hmm.
So virus is nothing but it is also a program, but it is a program which is written to destruct something, like virus accesses your files without proper access privileges.
Mm-hmm.
Though it is not supposed to do it, though the program is not supposed to do it, but the virus will read away the data from your computer and it can send the data to the one who has written that particular virus.
Okay.
And they can also create spam, like they keep on increasing the amount of memory that you have used. Though you haven't installed something onto your system, your system memory gets keeps on reducing because virus creates some files internally, and you are you will not be able to see those files because it hides the files from your view.
Mm-hmm.
So Windows based operating systems are more prone to virus attacks when compared to Linux operating systems. So there are thousands of virus files that are available in the internet which can harm your computer or which
Yes.
can harm your Windows based computer. But when it comes to Linux based computers, there are hardly around 10 to 15 virus definitions or virus files available. So there is very less chance for your computer to get attacked by a virus. So that is one of the important security.
Okay.
So does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. So in order to work with a Linux operating system, it is very important that you know the Linux commands. So let us look at some of the Linux commands. See, I have typed my password here, but you will not be able to see that password, or you will not be able to see that particular asterisk symbol as well, because that is the security provided by the Linux operating system. So on Linux based systems, whenever you uh, type your password, generally the password will not be shown to you.
Mm.
So this is the Linux terminal. So practice Linux, in order to practice Linux commands, just take a note of this particular website. You can register there and you can log into any Linux. You can log into Linux terminal and use it for free.
Okay.
So after our class, you can uh, use this particular website and try to do something. Try learning something. So the first command I'm going to show you is to create a file, because whenever you work with a computer, generally the most important things that you do is creating a file or writing something onto your computer. So in order to write something onto your computer, you should have or you should create a file. So in order to create a file, the command that we have is cat followed by greater than symbol and give the file name. So I give the file name as sample. So whatever you want to write onto this particular file, just keep on typing. have written 3 lines into this particular sample file. So this sample is the file name that I am using, and the cat is the command from the Linux, and this greater than symbol tells the Linux terminal that I am going to input something. So because whenever I create a file, I will input data into the file. So that is the reason why I use greater than symbol, because whenever I use greater than symbol, the computer or the Linux operating system comes to know that I will be inputting something into the Linux. So I have written 3 lines, and in order to save the 3 lines, I have to give the command Control Z. So Control Z is to let the terminal know that you are stopping whatever you are writing onto the terminal. So, uh, so if I type this particular Control Z in the third line, then only 2 lines will be saved in the file instead of 3 lines. So whenever I am copying, uh, writing something onto the file, I have to start a new line and press Control Z. So I have created a file. So let us just have a look at your file again. So in order to look at your file, first thing is we have to verify if that particular file is available or not. So for example, whenever you create some file in a folder, we will navigate to the folder and check whether the file is there or not. Because in a Windows based operating system, you will be able to see the file directly, but this is character user interface, where the only medium of interaction between me and Linux is the command. So I don't have the folder structure to see directly. So in order to look at the folder structure, or in order to look at the files that are available in that particular folder, I have to give a command called ls, which means listing. So it will list all the files that are available in that particular directory. You should not save folder. The terminology folder is not allowed to be used in Linux. So folder, in order to refer to a folder, we have to refer it as a directory. So within this particular directory, I have a list of files. So let me just have a look at the list of files. So when I so when I just now I have created sample file. So let us see if that particular sample file is available or not. So when I type ls, it will show you the file name. So are you able to see this particular sample file?
Yes.
Okay. So we came to know that the sample file is existing in this particular directory. So in order to see the contents of the sample file, the command again is cat, but we will not use this particular greater than symbol. So I say cat followed by sample. So you can see whatever you have written in the earlier example. So let me just write something again. So I have tried to create the same file again, So whatever I input something into the file, so just observe clearly. I have opened the sample file again, and let me show you. uh, So let us see if this particular line gets saved or not, because I am using Control Z within the same line. So I have written something into sample file again. So let us watch the contents of sample file. So this particular line test 111 is not at all saved. And one more thing, earlier the contents of sample file are this, but when I have written something into the sample file again, the contents are replaced. So the file is replaced. So whenever using cat command, you can only create file or replace existing file. You cannot edit the file using cat command. So in order to edit any file, we have some programs called editors. We'll not see editors immediately, so we'll take some time to have a look at editors. So this is about file. So whenever we have collection of files, or whenever we have say some 200 files within a single directory, then it will make your job very tedious. So in order to organize the files, on your Linux operating system, we have to create directories. So directories are like collection of files, but uh, you can just say directory as a collection of files, but exactly directory is not the collection of files. Directory is like so directory is also like a file where you have index to different files. So the directory maintains the links for different files, and going to the particular directory, you can directly navigate to that particular file. So that is about directory. So let us try to create a directory and what are different commands for this particular directory. So the first thing is, at right now I am working in a directory. So let us see what is the directory name that in which I am working. So in order to look at the present working directory, or in order to know the name of the directory in which I am working now, I have to give the command pwd, which means present working directory. So pwd stands for present working directory. So I am in a folder with the name, or I am in a directory with the name Bharat35. So at the starting of this particular file path, you can, the first thing that you are able to see is a forward slash. So the first forward slash in the path of any directory stands for root. We call it as a root. So the complete Linux operating system is based on a file system. So Linux treats each and everything as a file. For example, you have your monitor, then monitor will also be treated as a file. So whenever whenever you write something onto the monitor, then Linux treats it as writing onto a file. Whenever you give some printer, or whenever you give some printers from the Linux, based computer, then the printout or the printer will also be treated as a file. So it will send the data to the printer thinking as if it is sending it to your file. So each and everything on a Linux operating system is a file. So this particular file system maintains a hierarchy. So the root is the topmost folder in the hierarchy of a Linux operating system. So let me just tell you, or maybe in the next class I will show you this particular file system on the Linux operating system. I think I should have it. So let me just show you one, or let me just show you this particular file system from the internet. So in the first file, so each and this symbol is used to represent a file. So the first or the topmost folder is with the name, or the symbol available on the first folder is forward slash. So it means this is the root. So whenever you are working on a Linux based system, you will hear this terminology, root. So root is the topmost folder in the hierarchy of Linux based operating system. So under this root, we have different folders. I don't know why they have mentioned root here, but root is not supposed to be mentioned here. So under this Linux or under this root, we have different folders or different directories, and each and every directory will have its own importance. So let me just take the example of two or three directories. So we have directory with the name etc. So this etc will take all the installed files. So installed files on a Linux operating system are available either in etc or opt. Then we have something called mnt. mnt stands for mount point. So uh, each and every operating system will have its own file system. So the file system used on Windows based operating system is called NTFS, and the file system used on this particular Linux based operating system is called ext3. But don't get into it. Yeah, let me just tell you. So we have a file system. So I said each and everything is treated as a file within the Linux based operating system. So suppose you already have this particular monitor, you already have printer, or say you don't have printer for the first time. So whenever you connect something onto the operating system, suppose you have a computer and you have installed Linux operating system onto it. Now today you bought a printer and you want to use the printer within the Linux based operating system. How can you do that? So in order to work with the printer, I said each and everything on a Linux operating system is like a file, is treated like a file. So the Linux operating system will not have the file which is related to this particular printer. So in order to access the printer, or in order to work with the printer on a Linux based operating system, there should be a file which is created for the use of printer. So whenever you are creating a file, or whenever you are bringing, or whenever you are connecting some device to the operating system, in order to work with that particular device, it has to be brought into the file system of Linux operating system. So bringing something onto the file system of Linux operating system is called mounting it. So this particular MNT will have all the devices. So to simplify this, I can say this particular mount will have links to external devices like CD-ROM or floppy. So is it clear or any questions?
Yeah, it's okay, but it's little confusing.
Okay, in case if you have any doubts,
Mm-hmm.
don't hesitate to stop me at any point of time.
Okay.
So this is about Linux.
Talk Bharat,
Yeah, go ahead.
the mounting part, what I understood by your explanation is that basically in Windows, we have to install something. We need some kind of drivers.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that something related to
No,
mounting?
it's not. It's not related to drivers. Actually, the main intention behind installing drivers is to make that device visible to the operating system. For example, when you connect printer for the first time, computer will not be able to identify that particular device. So for the computer to identify a device, we have to install device drivers. So
Okay,
without device drivers, the computer will not know that you have connected printer to your computer. So in order
okay,
to identify any hardware device, there should be a driver for that particular hardware device. But the modern operating systems have inbuilt drivers onto them. So in the earlier days of operating systems development, in order to use a keyboard, you have to install driver for a keyboard. Until and unless you install driver, you will not be able to work with a keyboard. Until and unless you install driver for mouse, you will not be able to use a mouse. So that was uh, how the earlier operating systems work. And the main
okay,
reason behind installing any driver is to make your device visible to the computer. That's it. For example, without installing audio drivers, even though you connect speakers to your computer will not recognize the audio device. So that is the reason why we install uh, this particular drivers onto the computer. So coming to mount point is like, suppose I said there is a file system for Linux operating system. So this is the file system which Linux operating system is having. So uh, you have some lines which are going from this directories, right? From
Mm-hmm.
home you can see
yes,
Rick, Anna, Amy, Bob. So
yeah,
before, so at first you will not have these branches.
mm-hmm.
So Linux will have only this particular first level nodes. So only
Okay,
these first level nodes are available or first level directories are available. So whenever I want to add some user, I have to create a directory or let me put it this way. So whenever I create a user in a Linux operating system, a directory will be created for that particular user and the directory will be created within this home folder. So home is like it's the home page for each and every user who uses that particular operating system. So
Mm-hmm.
got
every
it.
user who uses the operating system, there should be a directory created on their name. So if you look at this particular directory, So in this particular present working directory, under home, there is a directory with the name bharath35 because that is my username. So
Okay.
whenever I have created my username, I have given this as my user ID. So with the same user ID, it has created a directory in the home folder. So uh, we have created a directory, but in order to recognize you, so earlier your directory was not available in the Linux folder structure. So this particular directory which was created for my use has to be linked to the file system or file structure of Linux. So earlier I don't have uh, say I have created the user Rick. So before I create Rick user, this particular directory is not available. So whenever I create Rick, a directory will be created and this directory will be linked to this particular home directory.
Mm-hmm.
So which means I am bringing the directory Rick into the Linux file system. Got my point
Yes.
or
Yes,
any
got it.
confusion? So
Exactly.
uh,
Maybe I can put it this way, like, you know, as long as the user is not created, that particular person cannot work on Linux system, right?
yeah, that's for sure. So what happens when a user is created? So when a user is created, a directory will be created to the user, but until and unless you bring this directory into this particular Linux file system, you will not be able to access it or Linux will not be able to recognize you. So I said only this first level of directory structure is available in the Linux by default. So I
Yeah.
am adding second level of directories to this first level.
Mm-hmm.
So until and unless I add you into the second level, you will Linux will not know that you are a user of Linux operating system. So
Correct.
similarly, when I add a CD-ROM device or when I add some external pen drive or when I connect some external pen drive to a Linux-based operating system, the pen drive will also be treated as a file or as a directory. So this
Yeah.
particular file has to be linked maybe in the second level or third level of this particular Linux operating system. So this linking is nothing but you are bringing the file and it's like copying the file into the Linux operating system. So because the Linux will understand or Linux will identify you only when you are linked to the Linux file system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So mounting is nothing
Whether it
but
is a user, sorry,
or whether it is
whether it
a
is a
yeah, go ahead.
hardware device or I mean to say output device or input
Yeah,
device, whatever it is, it has to be brought to the file system, Linux
yeah,
file system.
yeah, perfect. So
And
bringing some,
like,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No problem. Continue.
Yeah, I mean to say it is not just the physical presence of a folder, like directory. It could
Yeah,
be in the form of a directory, the second level. I'm not talking
yep,
about the root and the first level, but the
yep,
second level, third level, whatever it is, it could be
yeah,
in the form of the files or the directories, right?
yep,
And uh, if it is in the form of a directory, it again consists of some files wherein
yep,
it will allow that particular output device or input device, whatever user or whatever,
yep,
respective to them, to that particular device or user, it has files in it, right? Respective
yep,
to that particular device or
yep.
user. That is what I
Oh,
meant to say.
yeah,
To allow the Linux system or the operating system to work with that user or the devices, right?
yeah. Anything,
That is what you mean to
whatever
say.
you have, yeah. So mounting is nothing
Okay.
but linking this particular device to within the Linux file system.
So that the Linux operating system recognizes those users and the devices to work on them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
And
let me
moreover,
put
like
it in
as
another way. So whenever I install Linux onto a computer, all these particular directories are created by default. So
yeah,
these first level of directories are created by default. So
Okay.
whenever you connect a secondary device like pen drive, so a directory will be created for a pen drive and it will be mounted into the Linux operating system, which means your pen drive will be linked to the operating system's file structure. So that is what mounting means.
Okay.
Is it clear now?
Yes.
very much well. Thank you so much.
Okay, no problem. So it's just like this. So whenever you want to hang some picture of you on the wall, you have to mount a nail. So you are like bringing a nail onto the wall. So you are it's like linking you and linking nail and the wall. Similarly, whenever you want to access something or whenever you want to work with something in a Linux based operating system, you have to mount it onto the Linux file system. So this Linux,
Perfect
this,
example.
yeah. So Linux treats each and everything, maybe the device, maybe the user, maybe printer, whatever you connect to a Linux based operating system, each and everything will be considered as a file internally. So when Linux outputs something onto the uh, monitor, it treats monitor as a file. So it is very much equivalent to writing something in a Word document, and whatever the operation that it does to write something onto a Word document, the same operation is done to write something onto a display. So it will not treat your monitor as a separate hardware device. It treats it as a file. So is it clear now?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let us uh, try some more commands. So please stop me if you want me to stop at any point of time. I mean, if you feel it's, uh, if you feel it's very much for today, then you can feel free to stop me.
Okay.
So you have learned about the internal things of an operating system. So so that is the beauty of Linux operating system. So in order to learn Linux, you have to learn operating system first. So you have to understand the concepts of operating system first. But it is not needed when you work with Windows based operating systems. So it's like that is the reason why people or the companies prefer people with Linux operating system knowledge, because they will know the internal things of an operating system. Because just to explain you why this particular folder name is Bharat 35, there is a lot of concepts behind it. So that is the reason why companies look for people with Linux experience. And one more thing is, uh, companies can save a lot when they use Linux based operating system. So these days, the margins in the software companies or margins in the software industry are getting reduced. So in order to improve their margins, they have to uh, cut the cost. So they have to reduce the cost of operations. So one of the major expenses that are spent by a software organization goes out in the form of this software license cost. So if they shift towards this particular Linux, they can definitely cut the amount of cost, or they can cut the cost that they spend on operating systems. So that is the reason why many companies go for this Linux operating systems. So companies like Google, companies like Facebook, they use this Linux operating system. It's not only the cost, it's because of all the other features that we have discussed earlier, like security.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So coming back to commands, so we have seen the present working directory. So within this present working directory, I would like to create a directory now. So how can I create? So creating a directory is also called as making a directory. So in order to create a directory, I have to use the command mkdir. It means make a directory followed by directory name. So I will create a directory with the name test, or say test1. So the directory is created now. So let me just clear the screen. So let us see the list of files available on this particular folder or particular directory. So now you can see sample and test1. So you have two files with the same name. If you observe here, you have two files with the same name, and the color of this particular test1 is blue. It means, I mean, it is different from the two other files. So it is because the Linux is trying to differentiate between directory and a simple file. And another thing is, you have two files with the same file name. It is because this particular version of Linux, which is particular version of Linux is case sensitive. So there is a difference between writing the file name sample with the first S in uppercase and the S in lowercase. So it is case sensitive. So uh, you are able to see this particular directory test1. So let me show you how it differentiates this particular test1 folder or test1 directory from files. So we have ls, which is a listing command, and to this listing command you can add attributes like this. So when I use ls followed by hyphen and l, it will list the directories in the form of a cleared list. So this particular test1, so in this particular row you can see a D here, which stands for directory. So this first character will tell you whether it is a directory or it is a simple file. So I have created a directory. So whenever you have some folder in your Windows, you are, in order to view the file, we will open the folder. So opening the folder is nothing but you are navigating into that particular folder. So similarly within the Linux operating system, we can navigate to a particular or any directory using a command cd, which stands for changing directory. So when I type cd followed by test1, it means I am changing my directory to test1. So right now, till this point of time, this command prompt or the prompts you have here is different, whereas in the next level, after changing the directory, you can see test1 here. So I am within, or I am inside the test1 directory. So let us confirm it by looking at the present working directory. So pwd says I am within Bharat 35 and test1. So is it clear?
Yes.
So let me just go back to the parent directory. So in this directory structure, this home is called parent directory, whereas this Rick, Anna are all child directories of this particular parent home. So it is like this particular within this home button or home directory, I have a directory with the name Bharat 35, and within this Bharat 35 directory, I have created another directory test1. So right now I am in the test1 directory. So let me just show you another thing, ls minus la. So whenever I use minus a or whenever I use a option, with this a option it will display hidden files as well. So uh, whenever you have a file name starting with dot, it means that particular file is a hidden file. Suppose if I have with suppose if I change the name of this particular sample file to dot sample, then it will hide the file. So I will show you again. So this particular two dots will represent the parent directory. So what is the parent directory of this particular test1 directory?
Mm-hmm.
So what is the parent directory of this particular test1 directory?
Bharat.
Yup. So parent directory is nothing but the directory which is a level above above
Mm-hmm.
that particular directory. So this particular Bharat 35 is the parent directory of test1. Similarly, this home is the parent directory of Bharat 35. So within this Bharat 35, so in order to navigate to Bharat 35, I have to give the path of that particular Bharat 35. So the path starts from root, followed by home, followed by, so if you see the present working directory, I am in Bharat 35 directory now. So whatever I have given is called path of that particular directory. It's like address. So address is nothing but it's a path. So when this particular path starts from root directory, followed by all the child directories of root till you get to the particular child directory. So this is called absolute path. So absolute path starts from root till your desired directory. So there is another way of navigating to a particular directory. Let me show you another way. So again now I have navigated to test1 directory. So in order to navigate to the parent directory, I can just type cd followed by dot dot. So within this listing you can see there are two dots. So these two dots represent parent folder. So when I type this particular two dots followed by a cd, then I can directly navigate to the parent directory. So you can see I'm in the Bharat 35 folder. So let me just create another directory with the name test2. Sorry, this particular directory is not found. So it says cd command not found because I have given C in uppercase. So test2, no such file or directory. So let me just create a directory. So what is the command to create a directory? I want you to interact so that you will learn better. Because the commands you will remember only.
UKDA, yeah.
Yep. So you will remember commands only when you say them or when you practice them. So I created this particular test2 directory. So you are able to see different commands. I mean, the commands are getting changed there. It's because whenever I run a particular command, whenever I give particular command, the command will be saved in a file called dot bash underscore history. I'll show you that particular file. So when I use this particular minus a option or a option with ls, it will display all the files, all in the sense including hidden files.
Okay.
So you can see a file name with the file with the name dot bash underscore history. So this particular file will have all the commands that we have executed so far.
Mm-hmm.
It is not allowing me to view. Let me just try to create a copy of it and check if I can. No, it is not allowing me to view the contents of it. Okay. So this particular file will have all the commands that you have used in this particular session. So whenever you type your the button with upper arrow or the upper cursor, then it will show you the all the commands that you have used so far. So in order to create a directory, I have to use mkdir space directory name. So I'll create a directory. Let me just list all the files that I have. So I have a directory with the name test2. Now this test2 is created. So right now I have 3 directories within this particular directory. So again, another important point I forgot to mention is this particular directory with the name Bharat35 is called my home directory, because whenever I log into the system, I will be logged into my home directory, which is Bharat35. So that is my home directory. So if I create a user with your username, then it will be your home directory.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
it won't be named as home. It would be named as Bharat 35.
yeah, it would be named with your username.
Yeah, and
But it
the
these
first
all,
level of directory list will be there.
yeah, first level of directory list will be there whenever you install Linux for the first time, and within this home directory, I mean, don't get confused. So
Yeah.
in the first level of directories, we have a directory with the name home, and under this home, each and every user will be created.
Correct.
So we were, I mean, as I'm just showing you another way of navigation. So let us uh, look at another way of navigation. So I have changed to, or I have navigated to test2 directory. So I want to navigate to this particular test1 directory from test2 directory. So how can I do it? So the way one way is to cd space home, or
Give
I,
the entire absolute path for the
yeah, we can use absolute path.
to go to that particular directory.
Yeah. So using this particular absolute path, you can navigate to whatever folder that you want. And one more important thing is you should have access to that particular directory. So each and every file and each and every directory in a Linux operating system is controlled by access privileges. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll show you how, I'll show you what are different access privileges that are available. So you
I
can
have one
see the,
question, Bharat.
yep, go ahead.
I'm watching you type the absolute path.
Okay,
So you have created the home directory, which is a first level directory from the
okay,
that where earlier you have shown the Linux file system file structure, right?
yep,
So home is the first level of the directory level, and
okay,
in home you have created Bharat 35,
yep,
the sub I mean like a child directory.
yeah. So
You have
in this,
created Bharat 35.
yep. So in this particular first level of directories, each and every directory will have its own purpose. So the purpose of this particular home directory is to
Create
create
users.
users, and the purpose of this particular opt directory is to install, from whenever you install some uh, software into the Linux system, then it will be installed in either etc. So it will be installed in, sorry, opt directory. So each and
Okay.
every uh, what we call, so each and every
Directory
directory
has
in has its own purpose.
okay.
So this particular home, this particular directory with my name is saved in home directory.
Yeah,
So
I
this is
understand.
the absolute path. So now you can, I have navigated to test one. Now you can see the change in this uh, prompt here. So earlier it was test 2, now it is test 1. So navigation is successful. Now from test 1 I would like to navigate to test 2 without using this absolute path. How can I do it? So in order to do it, I should use another way called, another path, or another way of path representation called relative path. For example, let us look at this particular Linux directory structure. So
Bharat,
in
can you
order to,
repeat the question once again, please?
I would like to navigate to test2 folder from test1. Sorry, I just keep on using the term folder. It means directory. So I
Yeah.
would like to use, or I would like to navigate to test2 directory from test1 directory. Both are in the same level. Like both of them are within the Bharat 35 folder or Bharat 35
Yes.
directory, right? So both
Yes.
of them are in the same level of hierarchy. So my requirement is to navigate from test 1 to test 2 without using absolute path. So in order to
Okay.
perform that particular navigation, I have to use something called relative path. So the term relative means, suppose, let us look at this particular folder structure. So within this home directory, I have two directories with the name Rick and Anna. Let's say I am in this particular Anna directory and my requirement is to navigate from this Anna directory to Rick directory. So one way is I can start from this root and travel to home, then from home to Rick. But I don't want to do it. So using relative path, I can navigate directly from Anna to home and home to Rick. You understand the logic here?
Yeah, yeah.
So I can just navigate to parent folder or parent directory, and from parent directory I can navigate to another child directory.
Yes.
So in order to do that, I use two dots. These two dots represent the parent directory, followed by forward slash and followed by test2. You can see the change in the prompt here. So this is called relative path. Relative path is nothing but the address of any directory relative to your present working directory. So if I
Mm-hmm.
say present working directory, I am in the test2 directory. So is it clear?
Yes.
Relative path and absolute path.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so with this I would like to stop here for today, and we will discuss more in the next class, because I have taken a lot of time, uh, I, because I don't want you to feel too much. So until and unless you understand these concepts, you will not feel bored or you will not feel tired. But I would like to stop here for today.
Okay.
So maybe I'll send you one assignment on flowcharts. If possible, try to finish off the algorithms one first and then next flowchart.
Okay.
And yeah, another important thing. Yeah, let me just revise what all we have discussed in the today's class. So we have seen what is a computer and what are different kinds of devices attached to a computer,
Mm-hmm.
and we have seen what is uh, I mean one of the main important thing, memory. So we have primary memory and the secondary memory. So primary memory is a volatile memory, which means it gets erased as soon as you switch off the power supply. Whereas secondary memory is a permanent storage. Then we have seen what is an operating system. Operating system is nothing but it's a platform between user and the hardware. And there are multiple definitions of operating system. It depends on the perception with which you see. So from the end user's perspective, it can be like a platform, or it can be like a middleman between you and the hardware. But from the programmer's point of view, they might see operating system as a base for their application software. So there are different versions of it. It all depends on your perception. And we have seen different responsibilities of operating system like device management, memory management, resource management, so on. So in the market we have many kinds of operating systems, and we have chosen to study Linux, because studying Linux will help you in understanding the concepts behind the operating system as well. So after that, we have seen, we have started with different commands in Linux based operating system. So for today we have dealt with file control commands, or commands related to files. So we have seen how to create a file. So what is the command to create a file?
MKDIO.
No, that is to create a directory. I'm talking about
Create a
file.
file.
Yeah,
Cat. Sorry.
yeah, good. So cat followed by the greater than symbol.
Yeah.
And to view the contents of a file, we just use cat followed by the file name.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have seen absolute path, we have seen relative path. So this absolute path and relative path are very important. I will tell you why relative path is important. Suppose we have a concept called shell scripting within Linux operating systems. So this terminal, whatever you are working, will have something called shell. So shell will tell you, I don't remember the command for shell. Let me just recall. So shell, in a terminal, we have something called shell. So just remember the name shell. I'll tell you more about shell in the next class. So shell will have, or there are different kinds of shells. So in order to automate some task, you can write some programs in the shell as well. So this particular programming on shell is called shell scripting. You might have heard this term. So shell scripting, within the shell scripting, generally we use relative path because maybe today I have created a directory with the name test1, or say I have these three directories within my own home folder, within my folder. Suppose you want the same, or the, say I am working for a company and the company has 100 employees, and the company wants to use the same file structure for all the 100 employees. So maybe they wanted each and every employee to maintain test1 and test2 directories, and maybe the company has given a clear instructions like what should be stored in test1 and what should be stored in test2 folders or test2 directories. So suppose if I have automated a task based on this particular, so if I have automated a task to move some files from test1 to test2 directory, and if I use absolute path, I can only do the modifications to my folder structure. Suppose I want to do the same modification to your folder structure, then I have to go to that particular program and edit the folder structure because I have used absolute path. So in that absolute path, my name will be there uh, as name of my directory. So in order to use the same program for your directory, I have to write, or I have to change my name to your name. So for 100 users, I have to change this path 100 times. Instead, if I use this particular relative path, this relative path holds good for all the 100 users because from test 1, I have navigated to the parent folder. So whenever I use this particular path within your folder also, so when I say parent folder, it will navigate to the folder with your name, and within the same folder you will have test2 folder. Is it clear or any confusion? Okay. So that is the reason why we use relative path, because whenever we break some path, or say I have created a folder and within that folder I have created another two folders, and this first primary folder, let's say A is the primary directory, and within A I have created 1 2, and this A is placed in, say, home directory. So from home I have copied or I have moved the complete A directory to another folder, say B. Now in order to work, in order for the shell script to work in within this particular directory B, I have to change the absolute path. So if I use relative path, I need not change the absolute path because uh, I did not refer to home directory within this relative path. So that is the reason why we use relative path. So
Okay.
it depends on the context that you use. So it, I mean, depending on the context, based on your instinct, you have to use either absolute path or relative path. So that is about absolute and relative path. Yeah, and we have seen how to create a directory, how to list all the files and directories in a Linux operating system. And we have seen how to navigate from one directory to other directory. So what is the command for navigation?
CD.
CD.
Yep. So CD stands for change
Change
directory.
directory.
So that is about these are different commands. And in the next class, I will show you one interesting command, and that particular command will help you in case you need information about any command. Let's say your requirement is to create a directory, and you don't know what is the command that you can use to create that particular directory. You can just Google it and get a command. That's one way. And the other way is, if you don't have internet connection, then how will you be able to do it? We have an inbuilt feature from the Linux which will tell you what is the command that you can use to perform a particular task. So in the next class, we are going to see that particular command, and we will see another commands in the next class. So in case if you get some time, try to finish off those two assignments. Anyway, I'll send you the assignment for flowchart. So in order to create flowchart or in order to draw flowcharts, you can use simple Microsoft Word that you have in your PC, or
Mm-hmm.
you can use whatever the sites that I have used on the day, Lippy.
Okay.
So Lippy
Liffey.
is an online, yeah.
Okay.
I'll send you this path as well.
Sure.
So whenever you go to this particular website, just click on try PHP online now. So with this, without creating your account, you can use, I mean, it's like a demo version. So whenever this page gets loaded, you have to choose. So in the left side, you have option for flowchart. So you have to click on this particular flowchart, and you can use all these symbols. So when you roll your mouse over each and every symbol, you can see what that symbol is used for. So this if I move my mouse onto this particular diamond or rhombus, it says decision. So this is used in case if you want to decide something. So this is input output. This is paper tape. We have not seen all of this, but these are not at all required. So this is predefined process, or we can also use it for loops. Similarly, just try to explore all the symbols. And once you have finished doing it, so how you will export them? So just go. What are I mean?
Select copy
Uh,
paste.
Copy paste may not work here, so we have to use some inbuilt tool called snipping tool. So all of you, what is the operating system that you use? All of you?
Windows.
Windows.
I mean Windows. Okay. What is the version? Is it 7 and above?
Yes.
I think so. I'm not sure.
Okay. So whenever you log into your computer, you'll be able to see Windows 7 or the number. So just go to Start, and within that particular search bar, type SNIP. SNIP. S for ship, N for nail, I for ink, P for pen. Are you able to see something like this snipping tool?
Yes. Where is it?
So do you have this snipping tool?
Yes, I have it.
Okay, what about other two?
Other
Still
two?
showing.
Okay.
Just
Okay. Okay. So this snipping tool comes in very handy whenever you need, whenever you would like to take a screenshot of something, or whenever you would like to save something, some uh, thing which is on your desktop.
Okay.
So generally we create flowcharts in the form. So whenever we are creating flowcharts, uh, just create them in the horizontal way, like how we have created in our last class. So
Okay.
just create. I mean, see that you are creating it in horizontally because uh, when you look at this particular arrows, we don't have vertical arrows. So just use horizontal arrows and Uh, so how to use this particular snipping tool? So in order to use this snipping tool, just click on new and select the region which you want to cut. So this will be saved like an image. So you can just open a Word document and just click on paste. That's it. Control V. You need not copy it also. Even in case you want to copy, just click on copy here and you can paste it in the Word document or anywhere. Are you able to find that particular
yeah.
snipping tool?
Yes. Yes, I know. So
Okay.
continue.
Okay, no problem. So this is how you can use snipping tool and save the flowcharts. In case you know any other tools, you can always use them. We have another tool called Raptor, Raptor. So in case you are okay, you can just download some trial versions and use them. There are many tools available for flowcharts. I felt this is very handy because you can draw the flowcharts online and you can just save them.
Okay.
So just try to create some flowcharts and write algorithms. Are you okay if I give another 2 or 3 algorithms as an assignment?
Yes.
Okay, because I said in the first class, programming will increase your analytical ability. So programming is nothing but first step in the programming is algorithm writing. So as I mean, if you are very comfortable with writing algorithms, then you will be, I mean, your analytical ability will definitely be improved and you will understand the concepts better because if you have some programming knowledge or if you have some idea about how developers think, then you will get an idea about where they can go wrong as well, which will help you in identifying the defects. Not only
Okay.
that, it will definitely help you in understanding all the concepts related to software engineering better. So that's the reason why I would like to uh, give some more algorithms to you. So okay, I'll share some assignments with you. Maybe if possible, I'll share them now or in the tomorrow morning. So with this, I'd like to stop for today. So
All right. I
Thanks
have just one
everyone.
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for working on this Linux, do we have to utilize any web and watching
Yeah,
like what
yeah. Just
yeah,
log into this particular website and you have link for uh, creating or registering. So just register. You will receive an email from the website. Uh, so it may take some 2 or 3 minutes to create your account.
okay,
So once your account is created, you will receive an email saying that your Webminal account has been created, like what I have received. So once you receive that mail, you can just log in and practice Linux. Uh, you can also install Linux, but you have to be very careful when installing Linux, because if some step goes wrong, all the data that is available in your computer will be lost, because Linux installation is somewhat difficult compared to uh,
Windows
Windows
installation.
installation. Yeah, and if you are interested, you can uh, take help of someone who is good at installation, and you can use Linux, because using Linux will definitely have an advantage in the long run. Because see, to discuss 2 or 3 commands, it has taken so much of time, which means learning Linux is like learning an operating system itself, not just learning how to use Linux.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have a Linux operating system on my desktop or my PC, but I cannot. I mean, the GoToMeeting will not work from Linux operating systems. GoToMeeting is supported only on Windows and Mac-based operating systems.
Okay,
But we have some turnarounds in Linux operating system, because Linux is an open source. There are a lot of volunteers who are contributing uh, onto this particular open source. So when you just click on open source forums or Linux forums or uh, free software forums, you find a lot of enthusiasts who are working on this particular forum. So let's say you have some exe file. So generally the software that you install on Windows based system are exe files. So and so the softwares or the exe files will not work on Linux and Mac systems. They will have different naming conventions or file extensions. So there are people who have created some additional programs, and they work. So they will help you in installing exe files in the Linux operating system as well. So that is the level of contribution people are making in the Linux open source forums. So
okay,
even there would definitely be a turnaround. So using some additional layer, I can make this GoToMeeting work in Linux, but I have to try explore it. So that is about Linux. So yeah, we will continue it in the next class. Any more questions?
No, Bharat.
is it like maybe we'll be discussing more commands in next episode? As I mentioned, will we get the command list somewhere, the Linux command list?
No, no, I'll share you the command list. Don't worry. So
Okay, you can just forward the links, please share me the link.
yeah, I'll forward up along with assignments.
Okay,
Generally, we'll be having classes on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, like how we are having. Because uh, my schedule gets disturbed on Tuesdays. Generally, we'll have demo sessions. We'll have other things at the office. So uh,
yeah, sure. Whatever it
we'll
is,
try to follow this
yeah,
Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
okay,
Okay.
So anyway, I'll share you the meeting details. Share meeting details with all of you. So I mean, if needed, maybe I plan to say take some weekend sessions. Is it okay for 3 of you?
Yeah,
if I take a session on a weekend?
yeah, it's okay with me.
I'm not sure about weekend therapy.
Okay, so the reason I'm asking is because you'll generally we will plan something for weekend.
Yeah,
So if I take class on weekend, then all of you should be available. Until and unless it's okay for you, there is no point in it. So in case if I plan any weekend sessions, I'll let you know in very advance, and you
yeah,
can say if you are available or not available.
sure.
Okay then.
Okay.
Thanks everyone for joining class today. So have a nice weekend.
You too. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.